Good news, film fans. There's a new film out by Werner Herzog, which is always a cause for rejoicing. It's called Encounters at the End of the World, and it's a documentary in which Werner Herzog goes to the end of the world, to Antarctica, to talk to people who have kind of made Antarctica their home and to discover what it is that they're looking for.
These images were the reason I wanted to go to this continent. Who were the people I was going to meet in Antarctica at the end of the world?
And he says very specifically, and in response to things like March of the Penguins, that he's not interested in fluffy penguins. He does not want to make a documentary about fluffy penguins. He wants to find a deeper truth. And as always with Herzog, he does exactly that. And I had the great pleasure of interviewing Herzog on stage at the National Film Theatre just a few months ago. And it was very exciting because Encounters at the End of the World had just been nominated for an Oscar. I think this was Herzog's first nomination. He was going to the Oscars. He knew he was going to lose. He knew he was going to lose out, in fact, to Man on Wire. But he was quite pleased to be nominated. And we talked about a number of subjects that are raised through all his documentaries, but particularly through Encounters at the End of the World. The idea that somehow we live in a totally godless universe which is dominated by what he describes as chaos, disharmony and murder. If you saw Grizzly Man, you'll know that was the phrase that he used to explain the kind of the madcap nature of the universe. We were talking about his forthcoming projects. He's just done a remake or a reinvention of Bad Lieutenant. He said he hadn't seen the original Bad Lieutenant, but the original Bad Lieutenant was, as far as he knew, about the burden of guilt, and his version was about the bliss of evil. So I'm really looking forward to that. But on the subject of Encounters, we got down in the end to the matter of whether or not he really does believe that everything in the universe is just disharmony and chaos. And he said, well, you know, when you look at biology, it's clear that human life is unsustainable, and it's clear that actually we're all going to be overtaken by sponges, apparently. Apparently sponges are far more viable as life forms than we are. And I've been thinking about this for a while. I finally got to say to Herzog, the thing that I've wanted to say to him since I did that Grizzly Man interview, since that notorious interview in which he got shot, which is this. If the universe genuinely is completely random and without order behind it, how come it can produce something as beautiful as the films of Werner Herzog? And he looked at me with something that looked like sympathy, because here's a man who really has looked death in the face on several occasions, sitting there with an English film critic who was basically telling him that his films are too beautiful to exist in a godless universe. And I said, for me, the proof that what you're saying isn't true is you and your work. And he took a deep breath and he said, well, I stem the tide. Believe me, you haven't heard a bigger round of applause in an auditorium for quite a long time. Go and see Encounters at the End of the World. Keep Werner Herzog in work. We need him now more than ever.